Shpop. Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me we have some more RPG horror stories. There's not much of a preamble for the beginning of the video. I just hope that you're having yourself a good day. And if you're having a bit of a rough day, hopefully this will help you unwind a little bit and maybe entertain you. I mean, I don't know what's coming up with these sort of stories. I usually just kind of go in raw, go in unexpected. That's the best way to do things. Sometimes life is just unexpected. You just gotta go in raw. Why does it sound like a hentai premise? Anyway, enough about that. Let's get some RPG horror stories for today. A whiny player refuses to participate in a long session and is confused why he doesn't get the end reward. I was in a session that was about 6 hours long, which I wasn't a big fan of, but I participated anyway because I made a commitment when I signed up. But this one player didn't get that message. He whined and moaned about the session being too long, and in every single battle, he would refuse to fight and would run away from enemies, which ironically made it even longer. When we reached the end, we were divided the end rewards like money and treasure and purposely left him out. He complained even more, which was really funny. He said that it's not fair because he participated in the game. We called him out for not participating and said he's not getting the reward. He said that he sat through the long ass session for no reason. DM told him to get out, and he did. Next session, we learned that DM banned him, and we were glad. If you're gonna be attending a session, but you're gonna be constantly running away and not contributing and stuff, what's the point of you attending? Like, why'd you sign up in the first place? I'm thoroughly confused. And I hope the rest of y'all talked to him and said like, hey, but maybe you want to contribute a little bit, join the fight, join the roles, try to help us look for this treasure and stuff, because otherwise we're just gonna count as if you're not really even there. I'm not saying you gotta like baby the guy or anything, but DM probably should have said, hey, contribute, or like you're not getting the reward because you're just running away the whole time. I get the player was miffed because it spent 6 hours, but they spent 6 hours running away and not contributing and letting everybody else do everything else. So anyway, guys, please, if you are sign up for the games, play. Like, this is your time to play. Play, have fun, have a good time, and don't just join in just for the sake of running away. That's not playing at all in the slightest. That's counterintuitive. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to the next story for today. Am I the a-hole by ending my friend's campaign? First of all, non-native English speaker here, sorry for misspellings. People involved in the story are a group of friends of 1, Bob, Mike, and Harry, names changed for obvious reasons, and my group of friends 2, who are not directly involved in the story. Always been a DM for a group of friends 1. In our school, I ended up creating a project to host D&D games on weekends, which earned me a reputation as the RPG guy. During the pandemic, I ran my biggest campaign for group 1. Eventually the campaign ended and I tried to run some others, but adult life always got in the way. In the meantime, group 2, who I already knew for some members off by then, they asked me to DM a campaign for them, which ended with the same result, but with some horror stories in between, which I might share here later. Last year, Group 2 started a campaign inviting me to be a player, and there was a spare spot. I invited Harry to join, as Mike was working on weekends at the time, and Bob can be a bit stubborn and difficult to deal with sometimes, in terms of DMing. He's a cool guy though. Eventually, Mike became available on weekends and started a campaign, inviting Bob, Harry, and me, and I accepted. In recent months, I've been playing Mike's game on Saturdays and Group 2's game on Sundays, and it's been very exhausting, not only because of the time, but because Mike's campaign is so dull in comparison. He always says things like, oops, I messed up here, there should only have been 6 goblins, might be too hard for you guys, and so on. He's dedicated, but it's not fun, especially with the other campaign running simultaneously. And frankly, the combats are always easy, and it's supposed to be a darkroom campaign, where we're colonizing a country that belongs to goblins, killing them all in the process, treated similarly to when Europe started colonizing the Americas. Once he said something like, if you're not racist towards goblins, you're wrong here, which I really dislike. It gives off a vibe that's way too wrong for me. And Hero puts any music on, always leaving it to whoever wants to do it. Since none of the 3 take the initiative with these things, it always ends up falling on me. Also, last time there was a battle with over 50 enemies all week, and we could handle it, but it ended up taking too long. 2 hours longer than scheduled, and every turn he kept talking about how we must have overdone it and had to make some of them flee for us to survive, telling us up front. I didn't see a problem with the DM finding a way to save the party, but behind the scenes without the players noticing. Something I've never done with them, I have always been ruthless in combat and always come out on top, which makes me think the style of my DMing ended up influencing his style. Besides, the XP is based on killing enemies, and there's a druid who always shows up, screws us over for no reason, summons various creatures, and then flees. He flees far away without pushing it, and would never gain anything from spending 2 hours in combat with this guy since he always flees. If you have a problem with the DM and currently things are not going great, have you considered having a sit down with the rest of the party and just asking to have things changed? Because like if there's a lot of issues and there's a lot of concerns, 50 enemies to run is way too much. At that point, you just want to just take a bunch of enemies and just blob them up into like a nice stack, like a swarm or like a little squad and stuff. Instead of having 50, imagine 50 individual enemies on the battlefield. I'm just trying to imagine it like placing 50 individual enemies in like Foundry or like the VTT or the virtual tabletop. Placing 50 people would be a nightmare, and having to take turns for all those 50 NPCs and stuff would be an unmitigated nightmare that would take so much out of it that not only do they have to move, they also have to make the attack rolls, and goblins on average have a scimitar and a short bow, so if they're not hitting at melee, they can hit at range. That'd be a nightmare. You just blob them up into large things or gargantuan and just like keep them as little blobs, and you can move a lot easier this way. You don't have to have 50 individual things, and I hope they didn't have 50 individual things, but from what's being described, potentially that's what it was. Y'all probably should have brought this problem up to the DM early on. Well, because this is bad. Group 2's campaign is reaching its end of its arc, and we've agreed that I'll step in as a DM with my sci-fi campaign in its place. I want to DM for them, but I don't want to DM and play at the same time, as it will tire me out. And I know that if even one person drops out of Mike's campaign, he won't DM anymore and will be quite sad, as it cancels the session every time one of us can't make it. I plan to invite him and Bob to play in this new campaign, but it'll be on Sundays. And I know Mike can't play on Sundays, and I don't intend to hold the campaign on Saturdays. Am I the a-hole for ending my friend's campaign? He could still try to adjust the campaign to run it without you, if anything, just not have 50 goblins on the freaking thing, like just blob them up, or balance it out for your players. Don't balance it out for not having enough players, then have to cancel the game because you don't have enough players. You're the DM, you're allowed to reduce the enemy numbers, reduce the enemy count, make the enemies a little bit easier just to keep the campaign going. I don't think you're the a-hole. Clearly, it's just a clash of interest. You want to DM, but you don't want to play and DM at the same time, because it'd just be a lot for you to deal with. You can only schedule things for Sunday because that works out for you, and you can't do Saturdays. You physically cannot do Saturdays. This is literally not an a-hole thing. You just a clash of schedules. A clash of schedules, and you can't do DMing and playing at the same time. If you can't do it, it's not a problem. So I don't think you're the a-hole, but I'll let the comments know. What do you guys think? Is the OP the a-hole here? I don't think he is, but maybe I could be wrong. Let's get to the next story for today. A campaign that never started. I didn't plan for session 0. 2 of the players were colleagues of mine. One was the girlfriend of one of them, and the other was my brother. So instead of formal session 0, we opted for a longer period of discussion while I was preparing the campaign. Whatever your session 0s are, as long as y'all discuss things ahead of time in the campaign and what kind of content y'all gonna be and the do's and don'ts, and you know, if anybody has any sort of limits, like hard limits, I mean, that's a session 0. If it's a discussion or like a proper session, whatever it is, if a session 0 is a session 0, I'll count as a session 0. Characters, GM, that's yours truly. Long, that's one of my colleagues. We are at work. This will be a peculiar setting. Magic is heavily controlled by the Inquisition, so children are screened for magic potential and are normally assimilated into the Inquisitional ranks or at the service of a noble. This will be illegal but tolerated because it is one of the leverages that Inquisition can use when the power is threatened. I think it'd be unfair. My girlfriend and I both want to play casters, so we would be at a disadvantage. I don't think so. While it is true that you could face consequences for using magic, it's also true that you're not going to face other casters often, and they're going to be less capable than you. What class do you have in mind? Here's the thing. My girlfriend and I would like to play our usual characters. I'll be an elf warlock, but she'll be an elf druid. Would that be okay? It could be, or perhaps we could tweak something for a bit. I need to see the character sheets and to know the story. I happen to have them right here. I read both the backstories. They both talked about how they met, and as both had canine physical features, they both got a tail and dog-like ears, wolf-like for him and fox-like for her, they decided it was a sign from the gods, and they fell in love with each other. My spider senses were tingling, but it gave me the chance to insert them in such a world without changing anything. Hey guys, you know that you could just play shifter, right? You don't have to play like an elf or anything. I mean, I know elves are cool and all, but like if you want to play like a cat girl or wolf boy, shifter works really well. You can actually be a cat girl, wolf girl, fox girl, whatever kind of like anime animal girl or animal boy you want to be, and shifters are pretty dang on cool. This could work. The backstories don't explain anything about where they come from, so what if your girlfriend belongs to an elven nomadic tribe? This way, if the Inquisition wasn't on good terms with nomads, it would be normal they couldn't screen her and she was kept hidden. While you being a warlock means you could have found a patron later than the screening, but how do you explain the animal-like features? This is something both my girlfriend and I want to explore during the campaign, and it's not negotiable. Characters don't know it, but we already have a story about it, and we're going to introduce it as the campaign progresses. I don't like the phrase non-negotiable about something I don't know. Let me think about it. Okay, take your time. Yeah, non-negotiable is a red flag. If somebody is saying like, I need to have this thing and this is non-negotiable, they're ready to die on a hill and probably gonna be a weird hill to die on. Want to have some sort of ultimatums like non-negotiable things? Please consider, is it really non-negotiable? We had stories where people wanted to start off with magical items and it was non-negotiable, or certain feats or traits and it was non-negotiable, and it's a weird hill to die on if you can't be that flexible. Having a feature, see if you can get a feature or a specific feature in and ask the DM if they could, accommodate that is one thing. But if you come into the game and say, I want to have this and this and this and a castle and an army and a pet dragon and I want to have a billion gold, billion bucks, a billion doubloons, ultimate spells, a million wishes, and it's non-negotiable, DM, good luck finding a DM that wants to run that sort of thing, because I think most DMs would be like, whoa, dodging a bullet with that one. Let's continue. I had not checked those stats, so I gave another look at the sheets. It was a custom sheet I'd never seen before, and something wasn't adding up. There was one more stat that I had never met in D&D, and they both had 18 in it. Hey Long, what is this SZ stat? Yeah, that's dick size. Seriously? What is it? One of the characters is female. I've heard it's the boob size. Man, he was serious. Oh my god. You don't have to put that as a stat. Nobody needs to know that. Only you and your girlfriend needs to know that. Nobody needs to know what your character's dick size or boob size is. Nobody. Oh boy, it's gonna be one of these stories, isn't it? I bet they're gonna try to do some sort of furry fetish stuff too. I'm calling it right now. I mean, this story is marked as sexually content stuff, so I'm pretty sure they're gonna do some kinky furry sex. Let's see this. Okay, but what is the stat used for? I can't think of any practical usage. A lot of stuff. For example, if I struggle, snuggle, an enemy, it's used to calculate if I satisfy her now that she turns on our side. It can be used to tell how much pain someone feels when I sodomize them during torture. And if it's used to calculate if you get bonuses for sex during long rest, or we have to pay when doing it with prostitutes. Oh my god. Okay, this is a lot to unpack here, and it's just one sentence, but Jesus fucking Christ. He's talking about using struggle snuggle to basically satisfy somebody to turn them on their side, or to try to torture somebody when they try to sodomize. This is 100% gonna be some weird fetish stuff immediately. This is proof this is gonna turn fetishy 100%. This is just a bunch of characters that are trying to turn this DM's game into a sex game. Okay, I don't think we'll need it. This isn't that kind of campaign. What's the matter? Is it going to be a sex-free campaign? I don't have anything against sex, but I don't want spoken porn if it's not somewhat advancing the story. For conversion by struggle snuggle, the base DC is going to be infinite. I want to allow the throw. Both of your characters are lawful good, so I don't think you're going to be torturing anyone anytime soon. There's no bonus for sex during the rest. You want to be talking sex with your girlfriend during the long rest? We can accommodate for a 5-minute pause so you can find somewhere secluded and do all the sex talk you want while the others wait. I'd hoped he would get the sarcasm. I will have to ask her if she accepts those conditions. We'll think about it. After a couple of days, Long came. He asked me to add his brother into the campaign. He made a case for the importance of struggle snuggle in D&D and proposed that at the end of every session, the players were voting on the GM performance and decide who was going to be the GM next time. At this point, I voluntarily stepped down, and as no D&D is better than canine struggle snuggle D&D, I decided to remove myself from the campaign. I just wonder how they were going to explore the animal features, but I suppose it had a lot to do with the stuff going on under their tails. To my shame, there's an episode 2 to this. Do you need to hear about the second campaign that never started? I don't know, perhaps work catharsis? OP, I am scared, but yes, I want to see part 2. Give me part 2. Give me part 2. Give me part 2. I'm a glutton for punishment and weird furry kinky stuff that makes me grossed out, but give me part 2. Anyway, I'm looking forward to part 2 because, but like, I want to see. I don't want to say that I revel in this sort of thing, but like, it's an experience, y'all. It's an experience. Makes me feel alive. Anyway, and with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.